None of this has been put out, so we don't see what this is.
Wasn't there a second time? 2 weeks ago, there was a blue and white access out there, divers, multiple fishing
Set for
boats.
this run tomorrow.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I was there.
Okay, I saw your pontoon boat, were they doing testing at that time, they had divers, or they had cameras?
You have to get set up, you have to know what the parameters are, and what they were doing.
Okay.
It's not the most, it's very complicated to get everything coordinated and going in the right direction there. And there's people that have the experience like our visualists. They can predict everything that's gonna happen.
That thing that they presented that was not convincing.
I would have to agree, and some of the conclusions they made about aquatic plants, they named pondweed, there's at least 10 varieties of pondweed in Lake Beulah. They named Kara, it's not actually an aquatic plant, it's a macroalgae. They named coontail, which is usually only found in West Bay Road, and is not a dominant plant in open area anywhere. Just as the baseline, and when they were setting up, they had a pontoon boat that did a pass at like 35, then they had a surf boat do a 11-mile-an-hour ballasted pass, and then a wave runner went by at 20. And I was kind of like, how is this comparable? There's 23 to 25 foot sea rays on that lake. If they're not on plane, they're taking up just as much, I guarantee you, they see it all the time.
Or a 25-foot deck boat.
Yeah.
It creates a bigger than a sort
The
of.
majority of the people that I see go through that narrow portion into Barefoot Bay are IOs that are not on plane, and there is a trail behind them. It's the majority I see.
But that's why, you know, we have the other boats, we know the other boats, to find out what the difference is.
Is your boat an outboard?
It is.
The other one is an IO.
What's the other one?
It's a VAIO.
Well, what kind of boat?
It's a press line.
But you need a deck boat with an inboard. Is what the wave that makes. I don't know what those signs are all over, but is that what they're trying to outlaw? Or the deck boats? I can flip over any kayak I want. My boat is not huge.
We're not trying to outlaw any boats, we're trying to get the data.
Well, right, and I think that the way that was presented was very, very unconvincing. I wish we would've got other bids. I know with other people that have been doing it, you know, University of Minnesota is doing it, there's countless ones that are doing them. I don't know if this is a good company that.
I think it is a good company, I think it's a local company, and that was certainly, something that I thought was important. The idea was to get local data on Lake Beulah, and flying people in from Atlanta, which is where the main competitor, which is, I believe, called WEC, didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. They're doing the same research, they've come to many of the same conclusions on lakes down south. Yes, the University of Minnesota has conducted some research. Yes, I've read that, the conclusions that we saw with the information that Tara got in the first round is consistent with all of these studies. So,
Well, I think this is, no matter what side you're on, just to keep everything transparent. This should have been something that we all scheduled, like a meeting, that we could all be there. To keep it all completely transparent. I mean, Todd really wants to be there. He's finding out, is this the first you've heard of it?
No, just a few days ago, but I mean, I saw the notice go up, and I just figured that was about getting boats. I didn't think it was that study that we were talking about doing. I didn't know about it. Chris, you had said before that you didn't think it was a territorialist.
I didn't know who it was. I didn't know who was doing what.
funny, if I had my way, I wouldn't do it. Because I think we know the answer. Simple as that. There's so much documentation in the answer. And you can take an IO, you can make an outboard, you can take a jet ski, all those. And the activity below the water level is minimal as compared. The activity is not there below 2 or 3 feet. Just isn't. And all of them, that's all the testing shows. It's all been done that way. But to do it, we're doing it to make sure we're above board. And we are very honest about what's gonna happen here, so we're gonna run the test just to make sure everyone understands we're doing it. I think we know what the answer is already.
There's an engineer down in Ocean who was on a lake, on the Channel 6, 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, said you can operate them completely safe in 10 feet, John. What science is that? I mean, there's all kinds, and I agree, what you're saying is one thing, this guy is saying another thing. We have to be transparent how we do this.
That's what we're doing, yeah.
Well, but Todd can't be there, and I don't know if the boats are comparable either, I think we need to have a 24-foot, inboard deck boat.
It's not that easy to get them, we're gonna have something close to that. We do a lot of testing on the lake and water quality. I wasn't there for that, I wouldn't expect them to be. Everything that's going
This
on.
issue is turning neighbors against neighbors. We have to be clearly transparent.
That's
Water,
what we're doing.
water testing doesn't turn neighbors against neighbors. They don't put signs out for that.
This thing,
We should have, this should be scheduled, as we schedule a meeting, we're all agreed, we're doing it on the 31st of this date, and we're all there. This is a big issue. And you agree it's a big issue, it's a big issue for all of us.
I agree it's a big issue. I put out the request for votes. We talked very extensively about what was going to happen at the last meeting. I guess the surprise now.
Well, Todd claims.
Verbatim. The motion was, this motion would be to have you look into this, develop a plan, get quotes, and then get back to the board for approval. I'll make that motion. That's what we approved.
Dogs wagging the tail.
And we have an expert right here, what other degrees you have?
Well, my degree is partially in environmental anthropology, so it's how we affect our natural resources essentially, and I have a lot of.
Did these guys ask you about your?
I think that, well, you know, a lot of my studies in ecology too, but also in cultural anthropology. I think what the biggest issue with this is the division that it's creating between all of us. I've lived on this lake my whole life, my family's been on this lake for 90 years, and at no point in any of the history that anyone can remember that's still alive, some of them being 94 years old, has there been so much contentiousness and fighting with neighbors, people flipping each other, videotaping each other while their children are present. It's ridiculous. It's creating a culture that I don't want to be a part of. I get upset going out in the lake and having to deal with people that are attacking each other. I see neighbors who've known each other for multiple years that are feuding all over this.
why do you think there's organizations out there to get the right?
I know where you're coming from, John, and I think that, you know, we're not necessarily going for a ban, but I think that we're creating this ideology that everyone thinks that is black and white. I think that there should be some parameters, for sure, and there's certainly areas that it can be done safely on this lake, and there's certain areas that a big boat's gonna create prop wash that is probably damaging. So do other boats too, though, and so do many other vessels on this lake. But I think that, you know, we're just framing it in this black and white context and putting signs out seems like an attack on other people.
Not put a single sign on.
What's that?
Yeah,
People in
single
general,
sign.
people in general.
What we have heard, or what I have heard consistently, is that there is no damage being caused by boats. I think that that statement is incorrect based on the initial study that sitting on the bottom. We see removal of aquatic vegetation. We see it on, I mean, when you go out swimming, you're always seeing stuff that is essentially ripped out from the bottom. You can just take a look at it. When we see those kinds of effects, this board, this Lake Beulah Management District has one obligation to this lake, and that is to protect or improve the lake. Part of that, one of the specific things that's right in the statutes, is that we study problems that affect the lake. When we had observational information, that led us to do some underwater surveying. The underwater surveying revealed spots on the bottom of our lake that were completely devoid of aquatic vegetation. That if we look at our surveys in 2016 and 2021, we know that there were areas of aquatic vegetation there, and we've got big areas and they're in lines. It's kind of unusual that we would have lines in the bottom of our lake that are devoid of aquatic vegetation, and that we've all been on, well, I haven't been on this lake, but we all know that that was not a problem that existed 10 years ago. Maybe it did exist 5 years ago. So we took the next step. Yes, there were problems with the study. The surf boat that I rented didn't work, or maybe the surf lobby got a hold of the surf boat rental company and substituted a smaller boat, a smaller, less powerful boat. Maybe the smaller, less powerful boat had a great driver and completely played with the results. But we still saw that the bottom was kicked up in 15 feet of water. It's indisputable that we saw that. And when we have that kind of information, I think this board is obligated to take action and to find out what is going on with our lake. I think that is literally our only job. I think that when people don't want that information and that study to take place, I think it's very disturbing, because we only have one statutory job. To the extent we're interfering with that job, I think that that's something we have to look at and say, is this part of our statutory mission, or is this not part of our statutory mission? Are we just saying, well, we have to go along with whatever anyone wants to do and continue to delay and deny progress on this issue? And that's where I'm getting a little bit frustrated. And if this board decides that it's not interested in further reviewing this issue, then that's a significant sign to the constituents, to the riparian rights owners, that we're not doing our jobs. And if we're not doing our jobs, we shouldn't be doing it.
That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying if we're doing these studies, they need to be done right. They need to be done with transparency. We need to know when they're happening, how they're happening.
I don't
That's
know how much more transparent this could have gotten. The email went out, the date was in the email, everything was posted to the website.
We haven't seen the actual proposal. We haven't even seen it. I just don't want the same thing that happened to the last one, happen to this one.
So I have been involved in the design. I am confident that they're going to do a good job in the testing. I have received letters and checks from people on this lake that said, please do what you can to protect this lake. I am more than willing to pay for this study through Protect Lake Beulah if the dollar amount is what you want. There are other studies that are going to happen other than this one. There's 3 others being talked about by Protect Lake Beulah, not by this board. And I don't think I need to come to you to get approval to be doing research on Lake Beulah and the impacts that are being caused.
Hey, I'm just saying we need to go through the proper procedures, and we are not doing this. That's what I'm saying. And
This isn't rocket science. It's very well known that a wake enhanced boat with a 600 horsepower motor can get prop washed down to 25 or 30 feet. So why don't you just make a map that shows the depth of the water of 25 feet or greater, and let the people operate the boats there. If you're caught in less than that, give them a ticket.
Caught by whom?
The police, the police.
That are never on the lake.
Then you,
I'm sorry, this is honestly up for, I would ask.
I appreciate everyone's trying to be thorough here, but you really have to compare apples to apples on this. You need the most destructive boat they make. You need to do your testing with the most possible biggest boat that's out there. And then that way, everything that's out there on the market that's less powerful, less damaging, won't damage the lake. If you set the bar right, it catches everything. I'm just saying, you gotta really be thorough in what you're doing here.
I would love to spend $350,000 on a surf boat, because that's what a 650 horse surf boat costs.
I'm sure there's a few of them around the lake. If you talk nice to the owners, I'm sure they'll let you take them out on it. You want me to find one for you? I'll find you a boat that'll do 600 horsepower out here and I'll get them out.
I understand what you're saying, we have a pretty good boat right now. 450 horse, but it's in that vicinity. And that's the test boat we'll have, we're using that, approaching that.
I think it's relatively reasonable to extrapolate a safety margin from what I would call a representative boat. We aren't all running around 400 horse tri-tunes. We aren't all running around with 25-foot deck boats. We aren't all, I hope, running around with 650 horse surf boats. I don't know that we need to turn this into, I mean, we've had at least one surf boat owner expressly turn us down. They are unwilling to participate.
Well, there are people out there that have these well-endowed boats that could make you the wake you need, and I'm sure they could be have their arm twisted to help this. But the bottom line is, we just have to keep wake enhanced boats out of deep areas. I mean, that's what we should focus on. We know the wakes go down 25, 30 feet. Just make people stay out of the shallow areas.
Well,
Then why are we only marking 20 feet out around the entire lake?
I think you need protection minimally down to 25 feet. That way, whatever the biggest, baddest boat that's out on the lake can't damage the lake. If you keep everything in the substantially deeper water, you're never gonna wreck the shallow parts of the lake that are critical.
I tend to agree with what you're saying, that does make sense. We're approaching that with the boat we have. It's not only the depth, it's the distance from the shore too, that's a factor.
Yeah, but there's riprap on almost the whole lake. The lake's pretty fortified as far as the shoreline goes. If you make it 400 feet and 25 feet, I think the lake will be very good shape.
Yeah, it's not 200 feet, that's for sure.
No, you need 400 feet. But the thing that's getting lost in all this is we need some coverage. We need the police to be out there, and then we need to enforce the ordinances that we have. Now, I'm out on the lake more than probably anybody in this room, other than Stu maybe, and I see people not respecting each other's 100-foot making a wake from another vessel or a structure. That right there is bad, because that's where all your accidents happen. That's where all the deaths occur. That's got to be enforced.
all right. I think we need to either close this discussion or take action on this discussion. So,
Well, I think we have to continue as we're going, recognize that we have to have a good plan. I think we're going in that direction. And things are lined up for tomorrow, I understand, so let's go through with it. We're doing it in cooperation with the Protect Like Beulah, so should be good.
that sounded a little bit like a motion.
It does.
So let's clear that up then, so we don't have
I
problems.
make a motion to proceed with the testing we've outlined.
Is there a second?
It's kind of very vague.
All right, your vote is involved.
Well, could be.
How would you like to change it?
I think it's been outlined as was in the notice with testing occurring Wednesday, July 23rd, Thursday, July 24th. Four different types of votes at varying depths. So I think that's clear. Okay.
Well, I'll second that we take that, get this data, and there'll be more to come.
Okay.
Whatever we could do to get more information for the community, I think is helpful. It's not gonna be complete.
But I do too, but I'm gonna vote against it, that one, the company that we presented last time. That was very unconvincing, they didn't even show up here to, show the report. So I'll be voting no.
Is there any further discussion? Well, I am going to ask for a roll call vote then. Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Motion carries. Alright. Commissioner Kubitschek, proposed
Alright.
2026 budget.
So I got people's input for the 2026 budget. Sent out, or you have a printout, so the yellow items are changes. Other items might go up slightly, but that's really due to inflation and like insurance, so. The first one, the attorney, we budgeted 40,000 last year, I'm being told 70,000 is a more realistic number for 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least with the ongoing litigation involved in the county, so I went back and looked at the two prior cert actions. They each took around, what was it, about 15 months from start to finish. So this current one, we would presume would go pretty close to end of 2026. I think one of those previous ones did start around July. So coincidentally, I think you should budget for that attorney throughout 2026 as well as it'll be in 2025 as well. And obviously, I don't know what other actions can come up. The other thing I'd say, just reviewing the budget, if there's gonna be other anticipated testing, like terravigilus or just anything like that, we should create a line item for just lake monitoring testing. That might be in addition, so just a good idea to budget now for those items, because budgets are how you fund yourself. So for example, we know well monitoring and some of the lake quality stuff is pretty habitual year over year. We know what that cost roughly is. If we're gonna be entering a period where we're doing new stuff, let's learn from what that cost might be and allocate budget if the board determines to that. So I don't have any specific guidance, just general in terms of budgeting, how we set this up. We can be a little bit more specific, that way it's clear what's being spent. And that is approved, because this goes to the, annual meeting, and so all the eligible voters would vote on this as the budget. So it's not just, we can go spend whatever money has to be approved by those eligible voters.
All right, I'll just go down from the top, and I'll get to that. The next item that I had changed was, repairs and maintenance of the building land, because we had talked last fall, there might be things to do on our frontage on Mill Lake. I just changed that from 1,000 to 10,000, I don't know what really you wanna see there, Jess. 1.6 or?
Well, I think we need it according to,
Speed for sure.
all our heating issues. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Is that over by the shed? That's the least thing.
Yeah. We have a lease agreement for access, yeah.
So we still have to do that.
Do nothing, and do.
Well, I just don't, I don't know, I'm surprised that it's not, they're not responsible for that. But I've never seen the lease.
All right,
Question of what the owner is gonna do.
the next item that's changed is the aquatic plant survey, putting in 25,000 for that. And then, which would go under weed and water control, the weight testing number, if we're gonna budget for weight testing. What do you wanna see in there? What amount? One sec, so per Ron's suggestion is we break out weight testing and specify it.
Well, you just do overall, like, testing and, you can generalize it. I just think it should be in the sense that it's not in the budget right now, right? So if you're gonna say we're gonna be doing lake monitoring, testing, waves, something like that, that's not in this budget right now, so that was my recommendation.
Well, I had put under lake bed monitoring, because we're concerned with the lake bed.
Sure.
That's where I filed.
Okay.
I went from 4 to 10,000, but I don't know if that's enough.
It should be. But, they're on the floor.
I mean, there's two issues, right? There's the issue as well, if there is a
Survey
survey.
goes off, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is 15.
And then, yeah, the other new item is along the lines of, kind of safety. In the past, we would budget an item called contingency. We had $30,000. We haven't done that for a couple of years, but that would be a good place to put in some monies for
Sandy for the truck,
patrol.
wasn't it?
Yeah, so to put in for the patrol, because we don't know what we're gonna do yet, for patrol or the community resource officers or the service officers. And so as a placeholder, I just put 25 in there. I don't know what number should go in there.
I'd like the 50.
Well, and we can make it 50, but then we gotta go talk about, the tax rate, the general tax line, which you want to have.
So let me say this too, because this is in the statute, so if there's extra, right, we can create, this is their terminology, not mine, a non-lapsable fund, finance, capital costs, and maintenance capital equipment. So you can kind of have a carryover. So if you allocate money in a budget, let's say it doesn't get spent, the next annual meeting we create this non-lapsable fund, and that money would then go to that fund if it's not used. There's a way to build up reserves for capital costs and maintenance.
So capital